Greetings and welcome back to the Pretty Healthy Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Brandi Moore, and today I have another very special guest with me. I have Melissa Lenberg. She is the owner of Citrine Beauty Bar, one of the nation's leading clean beauty retailers based in Phoenix, Arizona. She's been in the beauty industry for over 20 years and has a wealth of knowledge. She transitioned over into the natural beauty space after some of her own health issues that she kind of struggled with. So today we're going to deep dive with her, get to know all about her beauty expertise and pick her brain. So thank you so much, Melissa, for joining me today. So I looked you up on LinkedIn and I saw that you have a very colorful past. You've got quite a few different things that you've done in your past, which is awesome. So I really want to know how you went from A&R executive to natural beauty business owner.
Yeah. Well, number one, I should definitely update my LinkedIn. I just don't even spend the time doing that. I'm like, whatever, I'm not looking to be hired by anybody. Or I guess even I should do it for networking, but anyway. So I actually went to school for cosmetology and I thought that I wanted to be a hairdresser. That's when I found out that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And so I was like, okay, that's not happening. And then I decided I wanted to move to Los Angeles. I'm originally from here. I'm a native, but I moved to LA, had big Hollywood dreams of being out there and being a makeup artist on sets. So I did that, but in LA grind, all of that.
Yep.
I picked up other jobs and I happened to meet my partner that I'm with now. We're not married, so I'll just call him my partner. We have a beautiful 3-year-old daughter and he was working at Def Jam Records and he's like, hey, I know you're doing your makeup thing, but we're like looking for people, whatnot. So I kind of started there. And then I moved up the ranking even faster than he did. So then I actually ended up moving over and I worked at Interscope for a while, but I do have like a music industry past and I still have some roots in the music industry. And then with being in LA, my health kind of took a turn for, I hate to say the worst because I don't like to, words are power, but it was affecting me. And so I decided to move back here. And for a while, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I worked for my dad. And then I was like, okay, I'm really passionate about makeup. I'm skincare, all the things. But when all that transpired with my health, I really got into what natural and organic means. I have to say that I'm going to be 40 this year. And just from living in LA from the time I was 19, I've actually never shopped at a regular grocery store, even to this day. I've always shopped at a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's sort of situation. So I've always been really good with the eating clean standpoint of things. But it wasn't until I had moved back out here that I really recognized what was in cosmetics. And I was like, okay, well, what if I started a business around this? And that wasn't a thing at the time, because this is my 9th year of business.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it wasn't necessarily a trendy thing like it is now. So that's kind of my journey. And I would say working in the music industry, I think that really also gave me such a vast perspective when it comes to marketing and just also how to be an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. Between that and then my father was an entrepreneur. It just really made me learn so many different facets of different things that I just think normal people don't really get to experience. So to bring that in, and then I was able to kind of package everything in a way. I knew right off the bat when I started my business, I'm like, okay, I need PR. And people are like, you need PR. And I'm like, yeah, no, I need PR. People need to know about me. You know what I mean? I need to be on the news. I need to be doing this. I need to,
Yeah.
And so that just, I think, comes from that background. But yeah, so that's how that all transitioned.
Well, that's awesome. I feel like knowing someone's story is so important because you don't think about it, right? You own a business right now. But when I looked, I was like, wow, that's such a cool transition. And your love for beauty is really where it all started and kind of where it ended up. So that's awesome. How was LA? I hear so many, it's beautiful, right? But I hear that being in the industry can be very taxing on your health. And I kind of assume stress and things like that might have played a role in how you started feeling.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I haven't lived in LA now for like 14 years. So LA has definitely changed a lot, you know, even that time frame, but even back then, I mean, absolutely. I mean, working in that industry, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
No, I would assume it's just grind you have to be on all the
You have
time.
to be on all the time.
That would be so hard. So you're right. Natural beauty wasn't really that popular 9 years ago. I feel like we were starting to get, right now you have the Kourtney Kardashians and the Poosh, and she's very vocal in looking at cleaner products. But how would you recommend someone find a natural beauty brand? Because previously, you know, you have a whole store, you guys are online and you ship all over the US, right?
Yeah, we even ship international as well too.
So you're international, so people can absolutely check out citrinebeautybar.com.
It's citrinenaturalskin.com.
There you go. Thank you. So definitely go to the website. I'll be sure to link it down in the show notes as well. But how can people find brands that are quality in that natural beauty space?
Well, I think nowadays with social media, I mean, I really feel like that's when clean beauty, you know, started to kind of blow up. So back when I started 9 years ago, like Instagram, nobody even really knew what that was. It was like a place where people put pictures, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I think like over the years, how social media has really grown, I think that you have a number of different things going on here. You have a collective conscious of people like waking up to a number of things right now. You go, wait, what's going on with this, and that? And I think clean beauty just happens to be one of them. And it's one of the more lighthearted things that people can kind of take inventory in and eliminating like some of that toxic load. So I think social media is one of the places where people find a lot of information. They can find different brands, you know, influencers, stuff like that. I will say that there's a lot of brands out there that I call greenwash, which is that they market themselves as being, you know, more like natural or organic or green. However, you have to be really careful because like one ingredient can be called organic on a label, and they're now saying this organic body butter, but then 99% of the other ingredients in there can we use language?
Yes.
You know, they can be shit. I mean, they can be toxic crap, you know? And so you really, I think that's where I think finding like a retailer or a brand that you really trust and that's very transparent with things is important. Because when it comes to cosmetics, unlike food, which I think food, supplements, all of that stuff, you have to be so aware now of what you're putting in your body because no one's going to look out for that other than you. However, what I will say with cosmetics is I believe it's an easier choice to make the transition with, only because once you find the products that work for you, you're using them daily. So it doesn't take a lot of thought, and you know, except for then like with food and all of those other things, like when you're out, you're like, okay, wait, but are they using organic here? Or does this dressing have canola oil in it? Like, you know, that takes a lot more, I would say, planning. Whereas once you kind of with your cosmetics and you know all of that, you're so eliminating your toxic load. People have no idea their toothpaste, their deodorant, their lotions, their makeup, your fragrance, like literally everything that you use, your hair care is just loaded full of endocrine disruptors. And when you're putting that in your system, and obviously your skin is your largest organ, it's very disrupting to your health. So we know that, you know, what you put on your skin instantly gets absorbed into your bloodstream. So paying attention to what you eat is important, yes, for gut health. And then also, you know, making sure that you're paying attention to what you're putting on your skin. So you're really eliminating that toxic load and you're not having, you know, such a burden on yourself.
Yeah. Two points to that. It's interesting because I will approach a brand or a brand will approach me, or I'll have a conversation with someone and they say, oh yeah, but it's only in, you know, my parabens in this product are so low that it doesn't really matter. My rebuttal to that is usually, yes, sure, but you have parabens in every other thing that you're using. So although the, you know, FDA has said, oh, this small amount is okay, they're considering that that's the only exposure that you're getting on that day and the only chemical you're getting exposed to. There's not really a conversation to say, all right, well, there's 20 different chemicals in, say, throughout your makeup routine. That's not including the fragrance you spray here, the fragrance in your home or in your car. That's not including your hair care routine and the things that you're using there. So there really is a perspective on body burden. And I usually tell patients to take it slow because it can be really overwhelming, especially when you're changing over your whole lifestyle, and say, all right, I'm going to change over lipsticks, right? Look at brands, try different ones. It's going to take a minute until you find one that you like, and then switch that over. And then like, okay, I'm running out of foundation, or I'm out. Let me go get a foundation, or I need a blush or a concealer. That way it's not, $800 later and you don't like half the brands.
100%. I always tell people that when they're switching over and they get overwhelmed, I'm like, let's just start swapping you out as you're like kind of going through things. You know what I mean? Like, you've been on this journey for a minute. So you've been using these products for a minute. Let's just wait. And as you're going through things, let's switch you out so that it's not overwhelming, because it should be a fun process. And just back to what you were saying about the parabens and different things, because, there's an ingredient called phenoxyethanol, which is a preservative that, even like EWG rates as being a safe ingredient if it's in less than 1%. This is what I say to this, and I don't know if this is getting a little far out there for you, but, to me, I want to make sure that everything that I'm putting in and on my body is high vibrational. I don't want something that is overproduced in a lab in a sterile environment that when I put it on my skin, it's just so, the energy of it is so low vibrational. Why wouldn't I pick a brand that's using products and ingredients that are ethically sourced, number one, that are sustainable, that are from the earth, that are high vibrational? I mean, all of that frequency, it actually makes you feel more beautiful when you put it on. So there's really, in my mind, there's really no reason to even choose products that contain those kinds of things, because there's so many other great alternatives. I mean, this industry in the 9 years that I've been doing this has grown tremendously. Tremendously. And there's so many brands out there, and they perform when I first opened, I literally have to like fight with people. They'd be like, no, I use Chanel. And whatever. And I'm like, but do you know it's got this in it? Do you know it's got that? And they didn't care, and then I kind of talk them through things and whatnot. Like now when we have clients, like they're so into it. And then like literally it's almost quite comical, because when we get somebody in, like you were saying, that they're wanting to switch things over, we'll do that because we don't want to overwhelm people. We'll be like, switch this, this, and this. And then they're back literally the next day. Because once you plant that seed and people start using this, they realize that there's truly a difference. There's a difference in how it feels. There's a difference in its vibrational frequency, everything.
It really does make all the difference. I found that as a woman of color, it was kind of a struggle 9 years ago, because everything was, it was 2 shades of brown. One was obviously, was more red, one was more yellow, or very, like too light. So it was almost like chalky looking. And so I'd go and I'm like, oh, this Juice Beauty or Jane Iredale or any of these brands. And I'm just like, I can't use these because they don't fit. And I feel like over the years, we've had a lot more inclusivity.
Absolutely.
And if we think about it, even the beauty industry as a whole has been struggling with inclusivity for a while. And so natural beauty is even smaller. And as more people of color want these products and start pouring into this industry, we'll get a lot of it in return too. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, like, even like one of the brands you brought up, like Jane Iredale. So she, like a couple years ago, actually reformulated everything, because what they were finding is like the minerals and all of that were in the darker shades, that was what was providing everything to look chalky. So then there was like, well, maybe, we don't need to put an SPF 40 in these shades. Maybe those can be an SPF of 20. So I do see so many brands striving for inclusivity. And I think it's super important to be able to have something for everyone.
And I've been into Citrine Beauty Bar, and it's a really, really cute store. If you're in Arizona, it's in Biltmore, right? I actually have purchased the Eco Brow there. It's one of my favorites. It's a little pot. It's lasted for forever. But I've tried other brow products. It works just as well, if not better, than some of like the Anastasia Beverly Hills kits. And it does the trick. And now I also don't have to worry about adding those additional toxins into my beauty routine. So you're absolutely right when you say you can find alternatives that work really well. Sometimes you'll have to wait for the industry to catch up in certain areas, but it catches up nonetheless.
It really does. Yes.
We've been talking about clean beauty and natural beauty, and I find that there's a lot of confusion about what that means. Even if you go to Sephora now, they have like a stamp for clean beauty. Same with Ulta has like a natural beauty section. But what exactly should people be looking for or avoiding to kind of know whether or not a brand is truly clean or if they're just greenwashed?
I'll be honest with you, that's a really tricky question to answer, but I'll do my best because, you know, this whole initiative, Clean at Sephora, I mean, it's kind of bullshit,
Yeah.
you know? Same at Ulta, because you have these companies, like I was saying to you, that have like a couple ingredients in there. And then now all of a sudden they're quote unquote clean or natural. I use the terms clean beauty, green beauty, natural beauty, but honest with you, they get tossed around so frequently now. Who's to know what's what? I would honestly say to try to find a retailer like myself that does those things, that is transparent with you and kind of walks you through that process, because there's so many chemicals out there to avoid. I couldn't even name them all to you. I mean, if I wanted to, there's so many things. So as a consumer, when you're looking at a label, I would just say, can you recognize most of the things that are listed on there as an ingredient? Now, there are going to be some things that you can't, and maybe those are then the things that you look up. I love looking up things on EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group. They have their Skin Deep database. And if you're ever just like, okay, well, 90% of these ingredients look good, but I don't know what 3 of these are. Look them up on there and it'll tell you what their risk is. There's also another app called Think 30. I tend to err for the EWG app instead. But as a consumer, that would be like my best advice.
Yeah, I feel like that is really helpful because you can get lost. Even when I was in school, we had environmental medicine. We took it a few times. So naturopaths really understand the idea of what you put on and in your body can really affect your health, what the air that you breathe, the water, everything. And it was really overwhelming being in class and being like, so I can't eat, I can't drink, I can't breathe because it's all so toxic. That's how it felt. I'm just going to live in a bubble. Can I be the official first bubble boy? But I feel like when being able to find a retailer that has done the research and work for you, like yourself, where you are really passionate and care, and it's not just a money grab, which I mean in the nicest of ways. I don't mean that you are, but I mean that I feel like people use clean, green, natural, like you're saying, and it's like you have 1 or 2 ingredients and you're thinking, oh, I'm doing what's great, right? You're spending your dollar, you're spending your time researching, and you're investing in a brand that you don't know doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart, compared to you've gone through your own health struggles. It's a passion for you. It's a way of life. And so you're only going to sell the things that you support and back.
Yeah. And for me, at least this is what I can say, like with my business. I mean, obviously I run a business and I need money.
Correct.
I mean, we all make money. However, I mean, my true passion is literally changing people's lives. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the first time that they walk in the door, or even, you know, online when we're dealing with people with consultations, they kind of are interested in this, but then it's just that like, it's like dipping the little toe in, you know what I mean? And then we keep educating and educating and educating. And now they're meditating. Now they're watching what they eat. Now they're getting hormones checked. Now they're getting their thyroid balance. Now they're, you know, so it's just like, it creates such a trickle effect to then create a positive impact in somebody's life. Because beauty is something that's very personal to women. You know what I mean? And it's like when we're not feeling beautiful, we don't show up in our lives as beautiful.
That's
accurate. Know what I mean?
Yep.
So really the way that we look is normally the way that we're feeling on the inside and the way that we present in life. So beauty is it creates such an impact with a lot of different things, I feel.
No, you're absolutely correct. When you look good, you feel good, you take care of yourself. Your self-worth, a lot of people have in what reflects back to them in the mirror. And if you're not confident in that, then it trickles down. So I could see how to some people would be like, oh, it's just lipstick. But no, you can really transform someone's life just by taking something that's seemingly small. Really, it can be the first step, right? So, wow, I just transitioned my beauty routine over, and it's making me more aware what else in my life wasn't serving me. Is it that my relationship isn't serving me anymore? Is it that my, eating style or how I've been exercising or not exercising? Like, you can kind of take stock. And if you were able to transition this, then drinking more water is another small step in the right direction, which I'm all about. Overhauling everything, I find, really overwhelms people. And it has the opposite effect. You're either going to like do it for a day and then quit. And then what's the point in that? Or you're going to be so overwhelmed that you don't do anything. You just are stuck in decision-making mode.
And I think that that's why beauty is really fun, because it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And then now they're interested in learning more. And so then it doesn't seem as overwhelming. They kind of get into things a little by little, and then they put that whole piece of the puzzle together, and they're helping to eliminate a lot of that toxic load.
Yeah. So when it comes to beauty brands, do you have any favorite beauty brands where people can start, right? You mentioned Jane Iredale before. Kind of, if I was going to dip my toe in and I was on your website, what kind of top 3 would you say are the easiest places to start that I can get, lip, eye, face from?
Oh, there's so many really great brands out there.
Yeah.
So I will tell you a couple of my favorite right now. So for skincare, I really love Agent Couture and Tata Harper. Those are great brands. They perform. They're very efficacious. You're going to see results within the skin, which is great. And then for makeup brands, I love Jane Iredale just because they have a full range, and they truly are, at this point, I believe, very fully inclusive with all of their color range. So they're great. We also have another makeup brand called Kosas. And Kosas is, again, very inclusive and has everything for everybody. And then we have some wellness brands that I really love too, that kind of help to address like gut health and skin health combined together. One of those is called the Beauty Chef, and they make like really delicious elixirs that you just pour in your water that make you want to drink water more.
Oh, nice.
They're actually providing you with fermented superfoods and different pre and probiotics to kind of help feed the gut and also feed the skin.
I feel like that's definitely a 2-for-1 win. You drink more water, you'll have more glowing skin, and then you're also working on the gut at the same time.
Totally.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to play. Anyone who's listened to the podcast or watched it on YouTube before knows that I love to play games. So today we're going to play Slay or Nay. So I'm going to go through some of the 2021 beauty trends, and I would like Melissa to say slay or nay. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So the first one is the soap brow, the really fluffy, straight up brow. What are your thoughts?
That's definitely a slay for me. I'm all for like a big, bushy, very natural, like brow. Oh,
yeah.
So I personally
slay. I too love it. I feel like all those girls that had to make their, Middle Eastern brows pencil thin are like, yes, it's my time to shine.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. So the next one is highlight and contour. Would you call this a slay or a nay?
This is an in-between for me.
Okay.
And I will tell you why, because I feel like we are getting there. There are some times where it gets to be a little bit too much.
Okay.
I'm all for it. So I was a very classically trained makeup artist. And so, we've always done highlight and contour. This is not something like new in makeup artistry skills at all. They were contouring Marilyn Monroe back in the day.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've just taken it to another level. So I'd say let's just tone it down a little bit and make it a slay.
Okay. And make it a toned down highlight contour slay.
Yes.
All right. How would one tone it down? Because right now, it's full on. You are drawing, chiseling forehead, brows. What does a I guess minimal highlight and contour look like?
A minimum highlight and contour look for me isn't like I think for me, it's when it's all really light,
Okay.
in the under eye and really the cheeks are popping. So I think just like a little bit on the cheek, a little bit on the nose up here is like perfect and like blending it out. I especially love to use creams when I'm highlighting and contouring.
Okay.
Look a lot more natural and when you blend them out versus when people are using like harsher things like powders. And then once you use a powder, like there's no going back. Like once you've committed, you're there. So, but with a cream, you can kind of blend it a little bit more. I'm somebody that I was like naturally born with really full cheeks and all the things people always think I've done something with my cheeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure you're not. I was about these when I was younger. So I don't do it personally, contouring and highlighting a lot, but I know a lot of women like it. And so I think just like keeping it minimal.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I'm all about like accentuating our features, but I think it's when you use it to accentuate things, but I think when you're trying to hide something, I think that's where, for me,
you can change your entire face shape.
Totally.
I've tried. And like you're saying, you can get carried away. It just looked like I had a brown line. I was just like trying to blend it. And I want to say I started with the powder. It was something that wasn't. And I was just like, I just look muddy. I'm just going to take this off. We're just going to try again.
Yeah. So I'd say people like get like a foundation shade that's like maybe like 3 or 4 shades darker than your normal shade and get like a cream like foundation stick.
Yeah.
And like that's like super natural, but again, kind of like helps to just accentuate things and make things pop.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Okay, skin minimalism.
That's a slay for me.
That's a slay. I assumed you were going to say a slay when you were like, let's back off of the contour, highlight just a smidge. I love skin minimalism from my perspective, just because it's focused on the bare bones. I find it so tricky when I see people, not necessarily patients, that have troubled skin underneath and then they just like cake the makeup on top to try to hide it. When I know that there's so much that can be done from switching to your products, right, to a more natural product, to balancing your hormones, working on your thyroid, working on your diet. Like there's no need to walk around with skin that is, what you don't want, right? That's why you're trying to cover it up.
They're masking, right? So they're putting all that makeup on and they're really masking what's going on inside too.
True. So I also like skin minimalism. I like the bare face, skin routine on point. Speaking of skincare, you mentioned Tata Harper, which I love. And if you're going to splurge for Chanel or Lancome or one of those, you might as well just make the swap. So you mentioned Tata Harper, and what was the other skincare brand? Kosas?
I was Agent Couture.
Okay. What do you think about like the Korean skincare trend, like the snail and all of those things?
We have a brand that we carry called Lovina, and they use some of those kind of ingredients in there.
Okay.
I think they can be cool as long as they're like ethically, sourced and all of that. So
yeah,
there's definitely like a lot to that. And then, the whole Korean routine is more like, you can do like a 7-step or a 12-step routine, or I'm there for it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because for us as women, we do not spend enough time like touching ourselves, like looking at ourselves in the mirror. And when I say touching, I mean like,
I know what you meant.
That's what I do.
Showing yourself love, whatever that means.
Love.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just remember, like we were talking before we started, because you're also a mom, but like when I had my daughter and she was really young and she would go to bed at night after I would nurse her, it was like literally taking that 20 to 30 minutes to like shower, do a facial mask, do my skincare routine, made me feel like a different human being.
Yeah.
And so I think that we just get caught into this routine of like, oh, I got to wash my face at night. Let me slap this all on. But it's like, what if we made it a ritual?
Yep.
What if we really celebrated ourselves and really made that like the bookends of our day? Like something that we start with, something that we end with, that's just ours, that we're honoring and celebrating ourselves. It's going to make us feel good. It's going to make us look good. All of that. Like, how would that like help us present in a different way?
Yeah.
And when you're taking that time too, I think you just also like I said, you're just showing up in life differently.
So I did an interview that launched last week, or that came out last week, about nervous system dysregulation. And I was speaking with a therapist. And one thing that she said that I found fascinating is we often think of meditation as like, crossing the legs with the hands and like you having to be in a Zen zone or listen to a guided meditation. But activities can be meditative. It's about coming into that present moment and really focusing on you and how you feel. And I took that and I've been implementing that with my patients, right? Like I'm like, meditate, journal. I was like, if guided meditation doesn't vibe with you or sitting quietly in a room doesn't vibe with you, then it could just be your nighttime routine that you're taking that time to wind down, and even just being present and, reflecting on your day without any other distraction can be so beneficial to releasing stress. She talked about kind of going through the stress cycle of having the stressor and then releasing it at the end. And she talked about scrolling on TikTok. And I was like, well, I love TikTok. I post on TikTok. And I also casually will go, but I've always just thought of it as a distraction. She's like, well, it depends on how you use it. If you change it and say, all right, I just saw this happy video and I'm going to like cathartically laugh, and you're recognizing it as a release. Or I saw a really sad video and I'm going to cry, and you tune into the present moment and recognizing it as a release can be just as powerful as sitting in your room, closing your eyes and listening to someone guide you through a meditation for 30 minutes.
100%. Mindset is everything, and for me, I tell people I walk and meditate, I talk and meditate. I there's so many different things that you can do to bring it into your life. But it's amazing because I'm sure you've probably seen the memes out there. Like, people spend 2 hours scrolling on Instagram, but say they don't have time for anything, or 2 hours binge watching Netflix.
Yeah.
But they don't have time for anything. So I think we just have to get our priorities straight. And I think that we've kind of lost that as society a little bit.
Yes.
But I think all last year kind of had a little bit of a reboot.
Yes.
So if you fell into that category before, hopefully you are not now. And you're realizing that you really need to put yourself first, and you need to love yourself, because, we live in a world where not only with toxins, like we're talking about environmental stuff, cosmetic, but just our world and just the pace of life can be very burdening to the body.
Yep.
And so just making sure we're taking that time to tune out and tune in is so important.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I love doing this podcast, because I'm able to have conversations like this. But I heard from somewhere that we often look out, like we look, what's her reaction going to be, or his reaction to be, versus looking in to what we really need and taking that time. And I feel like over the last year, people have been finding joy, or I don't know if I'd use the word joy, but finding maybe some comfort by looking out, like, okay, I want someone else to give me answers because there's so much uncertainty, or I want to watch someone else's health routine, or what they're eating, or what they're putting on their skin, versus learning about what works best for them and going inward first and saying, how did that food make me feel? I don't care that this influencer eats this every single day in this way. If it doesn't agree with me, it doesn't agree with me. And instead of coming here, we go here and look for validation or anything to kind of say, we're on the right path or we're not. So that makes...
We could talk for hours about this.
we could. We might have to do another episode. Okay. The next skincare trend is fun liners. So colors, designs. I feel like people have been getting really creative these days. What are your thoughts?
I love it. Let's activate that little chakra and let's get creative.
Yes. Okay. And then the last one that I have kind of goes with the highlight and contour, but can be different. And I found that a few years back, we were doing this with the concealer, right? These big V's. And that's a no. So now it's all the minimal, right? I've been watching, it's like a couple dots of concealer here and kind of at the corner of the eye to lift the eye is what the trend has been lately. I find that everyone's doing like inner corner, upper, and then like, let's lift, eye lift. So what is your thoughts on minimal concealer?
I think that's a slay.
Slay. I like it. So I feel like everything except the highlight and contour was a slay. Which it was a nice slay. It was in the middle. Well, it's been so great talking to you today and having this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. So if you are listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please be sure to follow, subscribe, give it a like. If you're watching the video on YouTube, then please like, comment, and share. It really does help the podcast be supported and get out to more people. Thank you so much again to our guest, Melissa, for joining us. And if you want to get in touch with her or check out her store, I will link all of that information down in the show notes. I'll also link the EWG and link their app so that you can go ahead and get that really easily. But that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me again and have a great week. See you next week.